good, guys? Oh, today's video feels so good. As someone who actually enjoys Nintendo products and has liked Nintendo from their beginning stance in video games, watching the company that basically just revived video games again back into the 80s fall apart and become the most worst villain you could actually see in the gaming industry really is a sight for no one to see. And the thing is, it gets even better because Nintendo has been incredibly litigious lately across every conceivable facet in the gaming space, taking down things like Yuzu and Ryujinx for emulation and everything else in between, yet still providing you no real way of accessing your older titles, whether through backwards compatibility or a really shoddy online service that you really have to pay money for every month instead of just simply buying the game outright digitally. Boy, that's a whole lot of fun now, isn't it? But you see, the entire meme that's been going around with Nintendo has always been,
"Oh, Alex, don't you dare emulate the video game! Nintendo ninjas are gonna get you!"
Well, apparently they've been declawed, or shall I say, brought out to the light, because it turns out that the Nintendo ninjas and their lawyers may not be as good as everybody claims to be. According to GamesIndustry.biz, Nintendo wins the lawsuit against streamer who livestreamed pirated games before release. Jesse Kayen has been ordered to pay $17,500 in damages. Now, honestly, the funniest part about this story is that Nintendo was not seeking $17,000 in damages. They were seeking millions of dollars in damages from what Every Game Guru was doing on stream. In fact, this is the same guy who also refused to appear in court. So he didn't go to court, he didn't listen to Nintendo, and he turned around and got probably the lightest sentence you could possibly get from everybody else that had to deal with Nintendo legally. On top of that, the judge also denied that Jesse, Every Game Guru, had to go ahead and destroy everything that he owned concerning Nintendo, which really was even funnier about the entire case because the judge threw that out too. With the article saying the court also agreed to award an injunction against Kayen, but denied Nintendo's request for an injunction against anonymous third parties. It also would not compel the, quote, destruction of the devices Kayen used, calling Nintendo's demand unclear and unreasonable, given it did not know who the third parties were or what the circumvention devices are. That is honestly crazy to see. The fact that Nintendo could not get away with their insane bullshit that they always tend to do online, especially when it comes to emulation, piracy, and even just playing their video games on different devices. They have this really absurd control of trying to go ahead and grasp the entire industry by the backside and say, no, we own this, it's ours now. In fact, they tried to exert that exact same control through patents, basically impacting every single kind of video game practically ever made. And the most notable patent that Nintendo filed was this one. Nintendo patents in-game characters summoning others to battle. The uncontested patent would now pose a, quote, fundamental threat to creativity and innovation in the industry. Nintendo is so incredibly horrified and terrified of other game developers and companies basically making the games that they're not making right now and losing that entire audience that instead of just making Pokemon better or having different kinds of games being made, they'd rather lock down actual gameplay mechanics and use that as a way to control the video game space and even development as a whole. That is a bigger issue more than anything that you could really see in terms of what the gaming industry is dealing with right now, is a company that is incredibly litigious going around and trying to control what game developers can and cannot do. Hell, even Nintendo's old former chief legal officer believed that the patents Nintendo was filing were just going to be ignored anyways. So even when former legal officers that worked for Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are saying, hey, these patents, they're not really going to go anywhere, it was incredibly shocking watching the United States pass that actual patent for summoning characters inside of a video game, which really goes to show what in the hell was happening in the US. But the crazier part is that back in Japan, that entire thing fell apart, and Nintendo was unable to get that patent passed in their own home turf. And that's when things began to really fall down for Nintendo, because it turns out that the patent that was passed previously may in fact be on the chopping block once again. According to Hazardor Gaming, Nintendo's patent infringement lawsuit against Palworld to be re-examined by the U.S. Patent Office. The USPTO director, John A. Squires, has personally ordered at his own initiative that the organization should re-examine Nintendo's patent. Nintendo, you get what you deserve in every sense of the word. It is directly an infringement on game development for you to go around and claim that you own and you are patenting specific mechanics in video games to restrict other developers on every single other genre to use them simply because you are completely incapable of your own sense to go through and directly compete with Palworld. That is a wild thing to see. Seeing it go ahead and get denied in your own home country of Japan to turn right back around and having that patent be denied in one country, come back to the US and say, oh, hold on a second, wait a minute. If they denied it over there, why did we approve it here? And that really does put a huge chink in the armor of Nintendo's lawsuit. And this could be the big thing that Nintendo falls apart on in the entire issue with Palworld in the first place. And it could finally be the linchpin that people need to see that Nintendo is in fact not your friend. They're not your favorite company. They are merely here trying to control the industry itself. And if you don't acquiesce to what they want, they will sue you into the ground. But let's find out the details in the article written by VGC and go from there. In September, Nintendo was granted a US patent, which covers the action of summoning another character and making them battle on the player's behalf. The most obvious example of this patent in action is a Pokemon game where a player can summon Pokemon and use them to battle other Pokemon on their behalf. However, as reported by GamesFray, USPTO Director John A. Squires has personally ordered a re-examination of the patent, citing previous patents which might make it invalid. Specifically, Squires has focused on the patent's claim to having a sub-character fight alongside you, with the option to make them fight either automatically or via manual control. In his order, Squires said he had, quote, determined that substantial new questions of patentability have arisen, based on the publications of two previous patents named as Yabe and Tara. Now, if you don't know about GamesFray, it is a website dedicated to patent law in video games. In fact, Florian Mueller is the owner of that website, and he's been putting more information about what's happening with Nintendo recently. This guy has been pretty much on the ball throughout the entire Activision Blizzard King and Microsoft case, and he called and predicted everything that was going to be happening throughout that entire time. On top of that, he's been basically right about the entire issue with what's been happening with Nintendo. But the thing is, he's not the only lawyer in this space. Here's what Florian had to say. Florian on Twitter said this: many members of the US patent law community are wondering why, of all patents, USPTO Director Squires took aim at Nintendo's summoning patent. A medical device makers council just thanked me for explaining it was public outrage in games media. Now that's kind of weird. There has been a bit of outrage on games media about Nintendo's patent situation, but we never got any real headway from it recently, even with all the videos being made by every other YouTuber and everybody else covering this in the space. But there seems to be one specific person that helped lead the charge on this entire thing, and you're never going to believe where it came from. The Legal Mindset on Twitter said this: thank you to everyone who helped in the hashtag Stop the Pokemon International campaign. Public pressure was the key to getting review of the US patents, particularly after the denial of the Japanese patent. Now is the time to keep pressure up on the Pokemon Company and Nintendo. When you have massive YouTubers like The Legal Mindset, people like Florian Mueller from GamesFray, and basically every other person talking about how Nintendo could in fact ruin video game development in the future because of their insane inability to finally compete with another person or developer, that's when things are getting really out of hand. And sitting here and just wallowing in the entire sense that Nintendo for some reason can't figure out how to make a better Pokemon game compared to another smaller team inside of Japan as well, really goes to show what has Nintendo even become, or what are they even doing right now? I feel like they're honestly just phoning it in half the time. Besides everything of creating things like variable rate pricing for their games, increasing the cost of their consoles that are already 6 years old, and then going around and suing everyone into the dirt, really they're more concerned about everything else around the periphery rather they are about actually making good video games now. And that's going to be the craziest thing to see, because it turns out there are some other patents that cause Nintendo to take the biggest L they've ever had. The article by VGC continues saying this: the Yabe patent was granted in 2002 to Konami and refers to a sub-character fighting alongside the player, either automatically or manually, while the Tara patent was granted in 2020 to Nintendo itself and also refers to sub-character who battles alongside the player. Oh, as M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong would say, boy, what a twist! They, in fact, went back and used an old patent from Konami in 2002 to say, hey, hold on, this kind of thing was already taken care of, so why are you filing it again? And then at the same time, turned back around to Nintendo, who also filed the same kind of patent back in 2020 to say, hey, hold on, boys, you guys already tried to do this before. What is even happening right now? That is insane. That really makes a whole lot of sense, especially when we saw what happened with the Japanese patents when Nintendo tried the same thing over in their home turf. They were citing other patents and patents from Pokemon directly and their own games saying, hey, you can't file this and use this. And now it makes a whole lot more sense as to why. If we're seeing the USPTO using Nintendo's own patents against them while they're scrambling trying to file anything they can to disrupt Palworld, it goes to show Nintendo really has no true legal leg to stand on. And it could also lead to the word that, hey, they could lose this entire case if it comes down to it. Because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially with how the lawsuit happened first and the patent filings happened afterwards. So literally, by their own admission, they basically knew, hey, we got nothing and we fucked up. Squire says the patent examiner's reasoning for allowing Nintendo's 2025 patent, quote, cites the failure of the prior art of record, meaning there was no previous related patent to, quote, to teach that a player can be allowed to perform two types of battles, that is, a battle by the first mode in which the player performs an operation input and a battle by the simpler second mode. However, because each of Yabe and Tora teaches a player being allowed to perform a battle in a manual mode and in a simpler automatic mode, Squire says a reasonable examiner would consider each of Yabe and Tora to be important in deciding whether the claims are patentable, adding that, quote, each raises a substantial new question of patentability. GamesFrey claims that it's very rare for a USPTO director to personally take the initiative to order a patent re-examination without another company getting involved. The site claims the last time this happened was in 2012. Boys, I gotta tell you one thing and one thing only. I really feel like Nintendo is going to be 100%, in fact, cooked on this entire case. That's my prediction. That's my guess. I always knew from the very beginning that Nintendo was going to go through and try something stupid and legal against Palworld. But the problem isn't the fact that they tried it in that sense. The problem is they tried to go through and start patenting game mechanics that not only impact Palworld and Nintendo, but also the gaming industry as a whole. This could impact games like Persona, World of Warcraft with the Flying Mounts patent that also got approved, which should also be removed as well. And every other game where you summon a character or creature to fight for you in another type of mechanic. That is a massive issue, and controlling gameplay mechanics is never a good thing at all, especially for one company to do so. We all love the Nemesis system, but yet that thing is locked away still to this day, and nobody can use it. Thanks! Way to go, legal guys! Good job! And even with all that being said, I think there's one big thing that Nintendo really did not count on, and that was the fact that in order to keep a patent as being viable to be contained, they have to constantly go out and defend that patent. The amount of money being taken in, even from every Nintendo simp on the planet, really doesn't matter if you're sitting there and blowing it all away on stupid court cases and legal fees for an idiot going online, streaming a video game that you could have just sold them in the first place if you put it on PC, or going through and trying to fight every single other indie developer or game developer that could close down shop and then reopen it to another LLC and make another game again and then pump that thing out on Steam and be protected by it, even though Nintendo's not going to be able to go through and fight every single kind of game and developer because they have the patent to protect it. That would be an insurmountable thing to do and would cause a huge amount of money to be thrown away. All of this, simply because they didn't simply want to make a better Pokemon game and just compete with Palworld in the first place. The hubris of this company really knows no bounds. And the better part about all of this is not a single Nintendo simp is even talking about what's happening in the gaming space because of Nintendo's hubris and, dare I even say, greed. What are they talking about instead? Console sales, console sales, console sales. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not. Anything to make them feel better at night about a plastic box they purchased. Am I right? Watch this. Player Essence on Twitter said this: with a strong holiday push and solid 2026, Nintendo Switch 1 could pass the PlayStation 2 as the best-selling system of all time next year, as it's less than 6 million units away before this holiday season. Rhythm Heaven Groove, Tamagotchi Life Living the Dream, and a big Animal Crossing New Horizons update should keep it selling. Most impressive is that without a price cut and a fraction of the time it took the PS2 to sell this much. This is what I'm talking about. These are the clowns that you have to deal with when you want to go ahead and criticize Nintendo as a company. You got dudes like this going around licking the veins from the back in every possible sense of a company and corporation that doesn't even know he actually exists, talking about, oh, my console sales, oh, the Switch gonna outsell the PS2, oh, as if that fucking matters in any sense of the word, when the reality that's hitting right now is Nintendo's trying to control actual gameplay mechanics in the gaming industry. And you can bet your sweet Bippy that this boy would celebrate it if they got away with it in the first place. Nintendo the best. They own the patents. You can't do it now. This is the kind of shit that really burns my britches. That gets me honestly upset when we have actual fanboys, grown adult men in their 40s and 50s, by the way, acting like this and cheerleading a company and corporation, literally doing the worst possible thing in the gaming industry and almost practically destroying it from the inside because they didn't want to compete with Palworld. That is wild to see. But what's even crazier is when a PlayStation fanboy becomes a Nintendo fanboy. Nintendo Sticks 2 on Twitter says Switch 2 sold 10 million units in 3 months despite being, quote, overpriced and underpowered. Mario Kart World sold 9.75 million copies with an $80 retail price. Pokemon Legends sold over 5 million at launch and is still topping the charts globally. Someone check on these guys. If you don't remember Get on the Sticks, then you missed out on quite a bit, by the way. There's a whole ton of lore about that guy. This dude used to be a devout PlayStation fanboy. Now, randomly, all of a sudden, he's a Nintendo fanboy. Another grown-ass adult talking about my console sales, my console sales, my console sales. Even though the company has no idea who the fuck he is or what he does or talks about. Oh, a couple of games sold a few million copies? Good job, I guess. How about talking about the real shit? How Nintendo is basically getting dragged across every single courthouse they try to go through and patent actual gameplay mechanics that could impact every single other game in development. These dudes are living in a bubble, and all they care about is trying to represent and feel better about a console they purchased, making it their entire identity. And that is the most wild thing to see. Instead of caring about video games as a whole and understanding that, hey, what Nintendo doing is in fact incredibly shitty, they're celebrating console sales instead, and then trying to lambast the people criticizing Nintendo on top of that, even though the criticism is absolutely warranted for Nintendo's behavior the past, 10, 15 plus years against emulation, still holding on to archaic exclusivity and just going around and locking games down on their platform because they feel like you have to buy the hardware to play their games, even though Nvidia makes the fucking chip in the first place. Look, I honestly am hoping Nintendo gets their just desserts, and no amount of Nintendo lawyering would get them out of this circle. That would be my absolute dream about this entire thing, because honestly, Nintendo's behavior has been a bigger bane on the gaming industry itself more than anything you could absolutely conceive. And the thing is, this entire patent infringement that they've been throwing around is absolutely backfiring in their face, and I am here for it. Nintendo should not be controlling the gaming space. They should not be telling telling other developers what they can and cannot do with different kinds of gameplay mechanics. And they sure as shit shouldn't be able to own or patent things like flying mounts, summoning, or anything else that they try to patent in the first place. And watching the USPTO use their own prior patents against Nintendo really is the chef's kiss out of everything. I really feel like this entire scenario is going to blow up in their face, and it is going to be extra sweet when it happens. But instead of actually just trying to make better games and listening to feedback of your actual customers, you'd rather just sue people into the ground, or companies into the ground, or try to patent things that you don't in fact fucking own. Boy, it's almost like you're too busy not making games and too busy in the courtroom. You should change those things around, switch them, just flip from one side to the other. Maybe you'll have a better experience overall and people might like you again. That'd be a good thing to figure out now, wouldn't it? But you know what? We'll keep covering what happens with Nintendo and these patents and everything else with the lawsuit between Palworld, because honestly, it's a hell of a lot of drama, and I'm really hoping Nintendo catches the fattest L you've ever seen on this entire thing. I really do. I really hope they get their just desserts. I think they deserve it. That's right, Nintendo, you deserve it. Now, with all that happening, I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts and ideas about this entire thing, because baby, this is going to get worse before it in fact gets any better. But if you want to see more of this kind of content, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, and gaming news, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 96K, and I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want Discord access and emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Just come on down Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, live right here on this channel, as I wear a banana suit and get insulted with AI TTS by about 700 people, and then use a voice changer to make myself sound like a Dami Mommy. No, you don't want to miss it. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you gooners next time. Peace!